10 big questions for Outlander Season 6. The 10 top questions Outlander Season 6 is going to need to answer. We were certainly left with a lot of initial questions after the Outlander Season 5 finale. When you rewatch all the episodes, you'll find some questions from earlier in the season haven't yet been answered. There is a lot to cover on Outlander Season 6. Some of these questions are focused on the events from the finale. A lot happened that will have a knock-on effect for future storylines. Other questions focus on other storylines that have just been hinted at right now. There are storylines that still need to be developed, characters that deserve more time to tell their own stories. Of course, there are questions about characters that seem to have left us. Will they be back? What happens to them next? For the purpose of this piece, we will consider some of the storylines from A Breath of Snow and Ashes. That's the 6th book in the novels, and the one that Outlander Season 6 is most likely going to focus on throughout the season. Some of the storylines in Season 5 were taken from this novel, but there's still plenty of drama to cover. 10. What will Roger decide to do in the past? Roger told Brianna that its clear home is on the ridge. That's what the Stones have told them when they tried to go through. So, that's settled. It's going to take something big for them to head back to their own time. Now Roger will need to figure out what he's going to do in the past. The books give us potential answers, but how much will the show skip over? We've seen no sign of a spiritual journey yet, but it's not impossible for him to choose to take that. However, could he end up becoming a teacher on the ridge for the growing children? The ridge will need one eventually. 9. Will Marsley blame herself when Henri Christian is born? We're certainly going into a book storyline here. Henri Christian is born a dwarf and Marsley is fiercely protective of him. However, children born with disabilities back then were considered a punishment from God. Will Marsley believe she is being punished for killing Lionel Brown? This could lead to Marsley choosing no longer to learn the art of healing. I've loved her being Claire's apprentice and fully enjoyed watching that bond between the two women grow. It'll be sad if Marsley steps away from this, but it will be understandable. 8. What will Richard Brown do next? Richard Brown made it clear that there's now a blood feud. Blood feuds only come to an end when the whole of one family is gone, which means it's the Frasers against the Browns. There are growing suspicions from Outlander fans that Richard was setting fire to the houses to make it look like some sort of safety committee was needed. Is there a chance that he'll be the one to start the fire at the ridge? Sure, that's not how the actual story in the book goes, but will the writers adapt it for the sake of the Brown storyline? 7. Will Wendigo Donner return for the gems? Speaking of fires, we need to touch on Wendigo Donner. After all, he has a big part in the Big House Fire storyline in the novels. We know that Donner is still alive. Claire purposely asked if an Indian was with the group of killed men, but Jamie didn't see one. That means Donner got away, and Claire is holding it against him that he didn't help her. All Donner wants is to get back home. Now that he knows Claire has gemstones to travel, he'll likely head to her for them on Outlander Season 6, right? 6. Which side will the Frasers and Mackenzies choose in the Revolutionary War? The Revolutionary War is on its way. There's no way around this, and the Frasers and Mackenzies really shouldn't want to even try to change history. America is Brianna's home, so they'll fight to make sure it happens. They could just stay out of the war completely. However, that's unlikely to happen. Somehow, the Frasers always get pulled into these big battles, and there's going to be someone who wants them to fight for either cause. What's going to draw them into fight? Why will they decide to be part of the Revolutionary War when the time comes? Of course, this probably won't be Outlander Season 6. There are still a few years to go, so it could be something held for a potential 7th season. 5. Is that the last we've seen of Lord John Grey and Ulysses? Lord John Grey has headed back to England, and he took Ulysses with him for safety. What does that mean for these two characters? Is this the last we've seen of them? David Barry recently said that he was leaving the show. Of course, this could just be for now because the writers don't know about Season 7 just yet. However, it does open the door for a Lord John Grey spin-off. Ulysses could be part of that if he chooses to remain with Lord John Grey while in England. I'd certainly watch that. 4. Who will young Ian confide in first? Young Ian has a dark and sad story to tell. In the novels, we know that he tells Marsley first and it's connected to the birth of Henri Christian. Later, he tells Brianna. However, will that be the way that the show opts for the storyline? Young Ian and Roger have certainly gained a bond that can't be broken. They've pulled each other out of dark places and supported each other on the road to recovery. At least, that's the way it looks based on their scenes in the woods and the friendship that seems to have formed afterward. Could this mean Roger is the one young Ian opens up to further? 3. Will the Christies show up? Okay, I'm really treading into book territory here. The Christies haven't even been mentioned yet. However, plenty of fans are talking about them. And there's been a lot of talk about Malva Christie because Marsley has taken the role of Claire's apprentice. However, there's an opening for the Christies on Outlander Season 6. We need a big villain, which the Christies can offer. Marsley will likely step aside as Claire's apprentice, which means there's an opening for Malva and Claire's surgery. I'm not the biggest fan of their storylines, but they are big ones and it makes sense to include them. 2. Will Fergus get more screen time? Fergus is one of the most underused characters on the whole of the series. He's so loyal to the Frasers, but he just seems to be pushed to one side. I had hoped with Marsley gaining more screen time that it would mean Fergus would, too. When Fergus is on the screen, he commands it. He certainly is used when it makes the most sense, such as offering his thoughts on Jamie's fear of losing a leg and telling Claire that he would kill for her. However, he needs to be used more and given a bigger storyline. Can we get that on Outlander Season 6 please? 1. Will Claire continue to change history? Finally, we have to look at Claire and her habits of changing history. Or at least, trying to change history. After trying to prevent Culloden and then trying to win it, you would think she'd learn that she couldn't change big events. And yet, she tried to prevent the Battle of Alamance. That didn't work. Of course, the Revolutionary War ends in the way that Claire and Brianna would want. There's little chance that she would try to prevent or change the outcome, but it's not about the big moments. What about the small things? Claire has brought penicillin to the 18th century. She's managed to create medicine and heal ailments that wouldn't be possible in this time without future knowledge. So, what else is she going to try to change that's small, and what will the knock-on effect be?